Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Relationship Mastery Series, Principles to a Passionate Life and Relationships and Dynamite Families. I'm Alan Darbonne, and I'll be your host for this series. And I'm very excited because for the last couple of months, I've been pulling together 25 plus wonderful experts from all over the world. And it's great because these are voices and views and relationship experiences from many continents and different countries and whole different ethnic backgrounds. And so it's wonderful to share it. And it's wonderful to see that actually we have an awful lot more in common than we have that separates us. And this is particularly true in relationships. So our guests, experts, are going to be sharing their many years of experience and their hearts and tips that you can use right away in terms of being able to create, to find, and to sustain the passionate life and relationships and families that we all want and that we all deserve. And today, actually, our expert is coming to us all the way from Kenya. She's been willing to stay up quite late because we're on very different time zones. I'm in California. So her name is Jenny Karina. And Jenny is married to Bob and mother of 3. And she has 8 grandchildren. She's an entrepreneur, a motivational speaker, and life coach. Her background is quite interesting. Her professional training is business administration and counseling psychology. Those really should go together. She has been awarded a Women's Leadership Achievement Award by the World Women Leadership Congress in 2015. Jenny believes that her purpose in life is to positively influence the world by stimulating, equipping, empowering, and encouraging individuals for better living. She believes that marriage does take work and is a core value of mankind. She wants to make a difference and to share her 30 years of experience. And she also wants to encourage those that are preparing for marriage to do so with the right understanding so that they can thrive and cherish in their relationships that they are co-creating. Her belief is that if family aspect is neglected in a person's life, it will adversely affect one's own mental status, as well as their career, their social status, and their spiritual life. She says there's no challenge too impossible to overcome in the pursuit of a marriage built to last. In fact, she's written 2 wonderful books. One is called Marriage Built to Last, and the other is called Healing Beyond Betrayal. Very, very important topics. So, Jenny, I really want to welcome you today. I've been looking forward to this. I'm very excited to be talking to you from really across oceans and the continent. And so thank you so much for being a part of the program today. And I can't wait to get further into the juicy stuff you have to offer. So, Jenny, could we begin by your telling us a little bit about how you became interested and involved in this whole relationship field?
Well, first of all, thank you, Dr. Allen, for just sharing a passion and not just sitting on it and being able to put together this relationship mastery summit. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say that first and foremost, my passion for relationships has been for over 30 years. Mm. But in the last 20 years, I've studied extensively on the area of marriage and relations. And I really had passion because in the beginning, I think I went out in search for knowledge about relationships based on my own needs. I really had a challenge in terms of my own relationship And I just needed to understand, is it possible really to live, love, and thrive? Is it possible to be in a relationship and be happy? I lived as a victim. I saw myself as a victim. Everything was not working. It was conflict all the time. And I kept asking myself what it is that I can be different about, or what my spouse can be different about. I always felt that I was shortchanged. And in many times I felt that I deserved better, but I didn't know how to get it. So I started studying. And in the process, I became a helper, to other people that needed my assistance in the area of relationships. And interestingly, I began to do some seminars in my house on Saturdays, once a month. And if you want to learn about how you can have a passionate life and enjoy your relationships, come on the last Saturday of the month to my house and I'll teach you. That's how I began all this.
Right.
And I must say that I found healing myself through being able to help others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a common thing that we share, and it's a wonderful discovery when you realize the greatest happiness and the greatest healing
Yes.
comes through serving others.
Yes.
Yes. So that's a wonderful point that you're making.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, in your experience, for couples that, and in this case, couples that are already formed as a couple, maybe even a family, very often the passionate and the intimacy begins to kind of wane or becomes a little boring or whatever. How can couples, in your experience, reignite that intimacy and passion?
Well, good question there, Dr. Allen. How can couples reignite their intimacy and their passion? And what I would really be able to say, first and foremost, is what is marriage? Because many times we look at igniting that spark, we look at igniting that fire, we look at relieving, that relationship we had before we got married. And what we don't understand is that before we got married, the attraction that we had was really geared to make us come together as a couple. There's a lot of hormones that are involved, love hormones, all the dopamines, all the endorphins. I mean, you are on a charge because I'm in love.
Right.
I mean, said that don't make sense. Someone also said that, when you are in love, everything seems to look the same. You can't make sense of anything. But what I would say is, when you do get married, you start making sense because responsibilities knock in the door. And when they do, then the love hormone sort of starts to decline. And when it does, then many times couples do come to me and say, I'm not in love with her anymore. I'm not in love with him anymore. So how can you be able to just ignite the spark of that magical love once again? And I would say that there are certain aspects that are very crucial in a relationship. And those aspects are taking care of your emotional intimacy, your intellectual intimacy, your recreational intimacy, and of course, your physical, to forget your spiritual intimacy. Those levels of building intimacy are absolutely important. How would you expect to build your intimacy if we don't ever do anything together? You've got to find a date night. Whatever you do, walk, have a drink, go to the gym together, go to the movie together, or just stay home, look into each other's eyes and say, honey, talk to me tonight. You know, it needs to get to that level. And I believe that we are all spiritual beings, and we need to be able to have a level of engaging at a spiritual level where we can know that it's not just about you and me. It's not just because I love you. There is a superpower that is beyond us that is in charge of our lives. And when you do that, you begin to enjoy that level of opportunity. I'll tell you this, Dr. Allen, it's not possible intimacy without, first and foremost, being able to know who you really are. Are you in a position to tell me what's your purpose, what's your passion, what's your path, what's your direction, where are you going, with who do you want to go, and what do you want to achieve? Many times we get into relationships and we want to be completed in those relationships. Because we come from backgrounds of pain, we come from backgrounds of need. We become codependent in a relationship, looking for someone to love us and complete us. And fortunately, if you want to find passion in a relationship, you'll never find passion if you're a codependent. You need to be whole before you can be in a relationship. That's the first thing that I would say. You want me to go on? The next thing.
Please go on. I love where you're going.
Okay, good. The next thing that you need to be able to do is, when you have found yourself, then you need to be true to your authentic self. Because unless you stand on the basis of who you are, you will never really find excitement and fulfillment in somebody else. Because when you know who you are and what you want, then you know what your needs are. And relationships are about meeting each other's needs. So actually, I found out that my greatest weakness was that I never articulated my needs to my husband. My assumption was simple. Dr. Allen, if he really loves me, he ought to know what I need. And believe me, he failed every time. He doesn't read minds. He never could understand what I wanted. And he could have said that you can understand many things, but there's only one person you'll never understand, is my wife. She's like the rainbow. Today she's violet. Tomorrow she's orange, red, blue, any color she will be, but not that which I expect of her. So once you are able to and to be able to know that, you know what, life is about opportunity. I think even being able to connect with you tonight is about opportunity. This is opportunity. So you've met this drop dead gorgeous girl, gorgeous man, and you need to make a relationship work. What is it that you need to do? You need to be attentive and pay attention to everything around the person, so that you will be able to affirm them, appreciate them, acknowledge them. And in that process, you build the other person. And you believe me, you don't need to look for the passion. It automatically comes, because the world has a simple rule that what you sow is what you get. So when you pay attention to someone and you have your energetic presence and you listen to them, like you and when they return that value, then you feel honored and the relationship can continue. I'll say this, and I'll say this without any apology. You want a passionate marriage, a passionate relationship, you've got to be sensual. I mean, you must. Physical intimacy is the reason that I left my father's house to find my husband for. I mean, I wanted him to hold me, to touch me, to kiss me, to look into my eyes and to tell me, you know what? I couldn't live life without you. That's what I really loved about it. I had everything in my father's house. I went to my husband, who could barely afford to provide for me. But I went there because he gave me something that my father didn't. And many times when you do get married, you forget the fact that you need to be sensual. And being sensual is about involving all the five senses. Do you have the right touch? Do you have the right listening ear? Do you have the right image? Do you look attractive yourself, or have you let yourself go? I mean, doesn't matter how many years you've been married. I've been married 30 years plus. I still try to put on a little makeup, look a little good, because I want my husband to appreciate me. And beyond that, it gives me confidence and makes me feel good. And that's how a relationship becomes passionate, because you're passionate about the little things in life. And I'll tell you, I recently learned from a gentleman that has transformed my life through his writing and through his coaching practice called IPEC coaching. And I learned about energy. Energy. And I tell you, I mean, I just got to know that you want to have a passionate relationship, you got to apply energy. And I recognize that there are two levels of energy: the catabolic energy, which is the negative energy, and the anabolic energy, which is the positive energy. And many times in our relationships, we apply the catabolic energy, and which brings us to the first level of energy. And it simply says that, number one, we see ourselves as victims. And number two, we find ourselves in conflict. And so you want to have the anabolic energy, you need to rise up to the third level, where you will be able to take responsibility of your life. You want to have passion in your relationship, you've got to take responsibility and say, honey, I want to have passion in my life, knowing for sure that it will never be about your partner. It's always about you. What do you want in your relationship? I mean, your partner will give you everything you think you want, or he thinks you want. But believe me, until you know that you have taken responsibility and that you have the choice as to how you're going to spend your day and what you're going to do with it, you will still never achieve passionate relationships. At the end of the day, I would also say that many times we suffer from work, life, and play. And you know what? We always say, oh, I've had such a hard time trying to balance between my work and my life. I've had such a hard time trying to balance between my fun and my wife. And I'm in conflict. Help me find the balance. Allow me to burst your bubble. You will never find a balance between love, work, and play. All you can do is integrate. And just know that when you're at work, give it your energetic presence. When you are with your lover, give them your energetic presence. When you're with your children, give them your energetic presence. Time spent with them. That when I am with you, I feel valued, I feel honored, I feel adored, I feel appreciated, and I feel that I am a very important person and I'm valued in that. Do I have a choice, Dr. Love, than to be able to just bring myself together and say, I am excited about this man that is in my life, or this woman that is in my life, because they have a way of just making me feel whole. They have a way of making me feel alive. They have a way of reigniting the passion that is within me. Passion, each one of us has great passion that is in them, but it needs to be awakened. And guess what? It's up to you to know which buttons need to be tapped, need to be touched, need to be whispered to, so that you can begin to awaken for your partner. Not to say that partners don't have a role and a responsibility in building up the passion, but this is the role of the partner. A partner will reignite a passion in you because they are very clear about what makes you tick. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, what makes you tick, nobody will ever know unless you tell them. When you tell them what makes you tick, then they apply that back to you, and wow, voila. I mean, I'm already getting excited at the thought of that. So what basically happens is you need to communicate, and communicate effectively, efficiently, and promptly, so that it is all good. And I want to say this to many of us that are listening, that many times when we get into a relationship, particularly that ends up in marriage, we tend to feel that we need to becoming one process. And it's nothing that happens over the night. Marriage is a journey that we walk together, each one on their own. What marriage does is that we complement one another as we have a common goal, a common vision, and a common purpose, because we both know where we are going, but each one of us needs to get there. No wonder it does happen sometimes that one of us never really finishes the race. What is important is, on the path of being able to walk the journey of life, support one another like there will be no tomorrow. Support one another with all your might, because this might just be the only day you have. So take every day as a blessing. A friend of mine once told me, the greatest gift that you can give yourself is to seize the day and seize the moment. And every time when I remember that, I arise and I see, I laugh. What might never come. Today is my chance. And when that happens, I just have no choice but to get excited and to move on. Dr. La, ask me another one.
Okay, that was wonderful. And I really appreciate what you're saying. I really very touched by what you were saying, what amounts to becoming an expert on your partner. First, becoming as best you can an expert on yourself. And then really make a commitment to be an expert on your partner, to really know them. And if you don't know something, ask. Yes. And if you're the partner, teach.
Exactly.
We apply that to everywhere else in life. If we want to become great in a sport, or we want to become great at work, we study it. We try to notice all the details. And it's amazing. This thing that we all really want the most, that actually moves us the most through life, we kind of drop the ball on that to a great extent. And so having that responsibility is worth underlining many times.
Yes. I think it's because the relationship of love is a very different relationship from all other significant relationships. We get into the relationship of love, with a lot of passion and with a lot of excitement and with a lot of purpose and a lot of hope. And when we are hurt or our expectations are not met in this relationship, it really just kills us. Because how is it that the one person I love the most can betray me? And that is why my second book is Healing Beyond Betrayal.
Oh,
Because
please,
I believe that
please.
it doesn't mean that because you are betrayed that you need to walk from your, you need to work on it. You just need to recognize that yes, we are human, we make mistakes, and yes, we learn from our mistakes and we move on from there. And so I want to say this: as we build our intimacy levels, as we work on reigniting our flames and our passions, we're going to hurt one another. It is inevitable. We're going to hurt one another, intentionally or unintentionally.
Right,
The
right.
question is, when we really do hurt one another and we are in conflict, it's not whether or we are in conflict, it's how well we are able to get out of this conflict. And I just would like to say that I believe that couples should always remember that you are not in conflict with an enemy. You're in conflict with your lover, with your best friend, with the father or mother of your children, with your soulmate, with the one you see them as human. Forgiveness part journey. And as you speak forgiveness, just restructure your boundaries, hold each other accountable, and begin with the small steps. And finally, your love banks will be full, and voila, love will be flowing once again. So it's a cycle. When conflict comes in, just get rid of your catabolic energies, just diving into your anabolic energies. And remember, the relationship of love is about win-win. It's never about who is going to lose and who is going to win. It's about whatever we do, it's a win-win situation for all of us. For
Very,
all
very,
of us.
very, very true.
Yes.
And could you speak a little more to that, because that's such a valuable topic, and a very, very difficult one when betrayal comes into the relationship. In terms of a little bit more about how couples
Yes.
can heal that, because it's massive when that does happen.
Yes. Now, one of the things that the minute you get into a relationship, you don't want to imagine that there will ever be any form of betrayal or there will be any form of pain. It's just beautiful and blissful here going forward. And that is the expectation of each and everyone in a relationship. But the reality is that there is going to be some level of pain and there's going to be a level of betrayal. And betrayal or this mistrust or unfaithfulness or dishonesty comes, and the measure that the measuring yard that you use is the values of an individual. It always amazes me when we do a values test with the client, because their values and the husband's values usually vary so much, and you can see where it comes from. For one person, their greatest value is honesty, and it's so important to them. For another one, honesty is at the bottom. Their greatest value is freedom, you see. Now, it is important, and I believe that values need to be shared. You always need to know what are the values of your partner, because when you judge them based on your values, on your belief system, on your culture, on your background, on your childhood upbringing, then there's no success in bringing meaning to their world. You can only be able to understand who you are married to. And I will say this again: know who you're married to, know who you're married to. Just know your partner and know them well. And when you do that, you will begin to understand why they behave the way they do, why they don't match up to your kind of expectations, and then you recognize what you can do to support them to be the best that they can ever be. When conflict does arise, one of the greatest challenges is involving children, and this has damaging consequences that are eternal where children are concerned. And so I say this: it's okay for lovers to have a fight. It's okay. But can we leave the children out of it? Because when you bring the children in it, the children go through emotional and psychological distress that takes a long time to heal, sometimes a lifetime. And even when they find partners, this is what they usually say: I grew up in an abusive family. I grew up in a dysfunctional family. And I find it so difficult to trust. I find it so difficult to connect. I find it impossible to enjoy a relationship. I always believe that they are going to let me down. So save your children. Let them be in a level of innocence for as long as they can be, before they can now begin to deal with lovers' fights. Yeah?
Yeah, very, very true.
Yes.
And I was thinking about what you were saying about values, and I know your commitment to helping individuals that are contemplating starting a
Yes.
primary relationship with someone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so extremely important, if someone is about to do that values test, to find
Yes.
out from the very beginning, if you can, how do we fit as far as values, and am I willing to take on that challenge if the
Yes.
values are so very different.
Yes.
It's useful no matter what, anytime further on in the relationship, if you haven't done it yet.
Exactly.
Very useful to also do that, because it explains a great deal. And those values come all the way to full circle to what you were talking about. Some of them come out of being very hurt in the family that they grew up in. Yeah.
I mean, I'm during the early stages, as people or couples are preparing to get married. One of them would say that, for me, infidelity is no big deal, and having 2 or 3 wives is something that I can consider at the premarital. And the woman would simply look at it this way: oh well, once we are married and we have children, I'm sure his value is going to change or shift. Then they get married, and the man starts just having. I mean, in where I come from, polygamy is not such a big thing. My husband's father had 4 wives. I came from a monogamous family. I married in a polygamous family. I couldn't believe that a father can have 4 wives and 27 children, and it's okay. And that's just the way it is. So before you get married, I would say that you need to be clear that you are in tandem with your lover and that you are aligned in terms of values. Don't yoke yourself with someone that you cannot be able to be aligned to. How can 2 walk together when they cannot agree? And so you need to agree from the beginning so that you will be able to thrive. And what I have found, Dr. Allen, is that actually people really begin the walk of marriage in the wrong footing. They marry in the hope that somebody is going to change, that somebody is going to just transform in a couple of weeks, in a couple of years, and they never get to change. And then they are knocking on the door and saying, I'm done. I want out of this marriage. So my question is simple. What has changed? Nothing. I've been waiting for him to change. I've been waiting for her to change, and they've never changed. But you knew all these things before you said I do. So why aren't you tolerating, persevering, and still continuing? Because this is the choice you made. As far as I'm concerned, you make your bed and you lie on it. And so, if under the circumstances you are looking for passion in a relationship that had the wrong beginning, you will try to ignite that passion and never find it. But you will find it when you apply forgiveness, when you set new boundaries, when you sit together and reason together, when you find accountability, when you seek counsel, and you're able to move to the next level. Because it takes two to reason and to sketch the next path of life that they need. And when you do that, you get new energy and you begin to zoom, and passion begins to outpour. And yes, you get to enjoy life.
Very, very inspirational messages there. And it's something that a lot of people need to hear, because it's so easy to go to a place of impossibility because individuals are placing the possibility of change on something that won't change, or isn't really interested in changing. So if change is going to happen, it always comes back to us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, one thing that I know you have spoken about in the past, and what about when actual abuse comes into the relationship? When is it time to say no to abuse?
Abuse is the most unfortunate thing that does happen in a relationship. And actually, I have witnessed many people in abuse that have continued to stay in a relationship and eventually go through, trauma, depression, and even injury, lifetime injuries. What I would say is that I believe that marriage is built to last, and I believe that you should give your marriage everything that it deserves, to give it a chance. But when you see the first signs of abuse, you need to seek help. And it's not one of those things that you say, oh, they'll get better. Usually an abuser continues to abuse because it's a secret. The more you keep it a secret, the more you will continually be abused. And abusers generally have a cycle of abuse based on a couple of things. One, it could be as a result of their childhood upbringing, and they grew up in an abusive family, and it has abuse. Two, they may be suffering from mental health issues. I don't know about the United States, but I do know that here in Kenya, mental health is really big. And latest statistics said that 4 in every 10 people have mental health issues. And that's simply from drug abuse, excessive alcoholism, depression, bipolar, and severe mental health issues. And so sometimes you have an abusive spouse, but what you don't recognize is that it's not just that they are mad. It's not just about the conflict. It's more than that. It's actually medical. And unless you seek professional help, then it's not attended to. We have a lot of people that are suffering from bipolar, from mild to extreme. And spouses really never recognize that. Even when they come for help, they just say that they of their spouses. And it's basically through assessments that you're able to see that this is a mental health issue. But in the meantime, they put up with a lot of depression, with a lot of pain. And I'm just reminded, even as I speak of this, a young man was recently stabbed by his wife after an argument. And it's just by the grace of God that he didn't lose his life. And so the question that I would ask that person who's going through abuse, for how long are you going to put up with it? Because soon you are not going to be able to have breath, or you will not be able to have sanity even to be able to take care of your children. Because many times the women that are in abusive relationships, this is what they say, Dr. Allen, I'm in this relationship only for the sake of my children. Now, the children that grow up in abusive families are totally dysfunctional. And they actually are always absolutely angry with their parents for what they put them through and the pain that they went through.
Right, right.
Yes. And so I would say, I know that you love your spouse so very much, man or woman. If they are abusive, seek help, because it's not about you, it's saving them from themselves. They need a doctor, and that doctor will prescribe the right medication and they will be healed. But if you don't seek help, they won't. But I'll also tell you this, that the reason that abuse is attractive, because abuse can be attractive. And what basically happens is that the cycle of abuse has a reward, because the abuser, at the peak of the abuse, will always pick up their pieces, apologize profusely, and tell you how much they love you. There is whoops. I'd lost. Hello.
Okay, we're back. We unfortunately have had some internet interruptions at moments, but they have been generally brief. So I hope anyone that's noticing that you stick through it. And can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, great. So I'm also just realizing the time, and I knew that our time would go fast, and it has. And so we're going to be needing to wrap up soon. But what I would love if you have any final tip that you might like to offer to our viewing audience, that for individuals that are really looking for that positively passionate and beautiful marriage and family relationship.
Okay. Now, I think for me, I would say that the final tip is just apply your partner's love language. What is it that your partner feels loved for? Is it words of affirmation? I love words of affirmation. Affirm your partner and just tell them how great they are. Is it quality time? Give them quality time and let them know, because many people feel loved when you give them quality time. Is it gifts? Give the gifts, but don't give too expensive gifts. It's family money unless you've discussed it. And so be generous, but with a level of caution. And so whatever you do, let it be spouse centered, not just about yourself. It's not about what you want. It's about recognizing what it is that your partner wants. If they're crazy about acts of service, go out of their way, cook for them, make them feel valued, serve them, wait on them, and they will love you for that. But I will say this, one of the greatest secrets is about respect. You've got to be very respectful. I mean, don't give me no love, just give me respect. I hear that a lot. I
Right.
don't want no love, just give me respect.
Mm.
So give your partner respect. And when you give respect, then respect will be given back to you.
Mm.
And finally, I say this to you. Love your partner like you'll never love anyone else in your entire life.
Mm.
Just don't allow the little things to come on your way. And so listen, don't sweat the small stuff. Bigger things are coming. So the little things, don't sweat. Just let it go and enjoy life and thrive.
Beautiful, beautiful.
So I'd say,
Yeah,
live, love, and thrive because you deserve it. Mhm.
absolutely. And
Yes.
that is such a truth. You deserve
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And before we do finish, I'd like you to share with our viewing audience what the gift is that you so generously are offering.
All right. Lovely. Um, I am so excited to be a part of Relationship Mastery Series. I honor Dr. Alan Darbonne for taking time to put this together. And because I know that you are there, I'd like to offer you a couple of coaching sessions. Energy leadership, that is what I'm going to coach you about. And so I will have 5 individuals that sign up, and I will give them some complimentary coaching sessions.
Oh,
If
well,
I recognize that this is global. If for any reason you touch base with Kenya, Nairobi, I will be happy to host you in my home, and we can be able to have dinner, lunch, and breakfast, and I will give you a complimentary accommodation. I've got a lovely tree house where I'm speaking from, and you can be able to share this accommodation for a couple of days. So all you need to do is let me know I'm coming to Kenya, and here we are. We will connect and eat, dine, and sleep together.
oh, what a wonderful gift, and
Thank you.
so generous of you. Thank you so much.
It
And
is my pleasure.
folks, for the to be able to have access to the link, you're going to be seeing it now. There is a link that is following this interview, and all you need to do is put in your first name and your email address and click on the Get Access link, and that will give you access to the wonderful gift that Jenny is offering. And in closing today, once again, I want to thank you so much, Jenny, for not only what you've offered today, but what I know you're offering out to the world, and it's truly appreciated by me. And and to our listening audience and viewing audience, thank you so much for being with us. And I'm Alan Darbonne, your host, and I want to remind you that your particular kind of love and your particular light is something that we really need on this planet. We can't be whole without you. And so please just find your kindness and speak your truth. That will help us all heal. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the future. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.